Continuing on the program today, we talk to two presidential candidates of the Nigerian Bar Association (NBA). Ahead of the July 27 and 28 elections of the bar, we get the candidates to share with us some of their programs for the bar and their thoughts even on some current national issues. Hello and welcome to this episode of Law Weekly. I am Shola Shoyeli. Let's begin with Mr. Paul Osoro, who has been variously described as the go-to counsel for complex matters, be it litigation or commercial transactions. You would recall that he was instrumental to the victory of the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, who had a case of false asset declarations dismissed recently by the Supreme Court. Mr. Osoro was elevated to the inner bar in 2003, and he has over 30 years' experience in legal practice. In this interview, we start with his views on the prevailing security challenge in the country and the growing calls for a state police.
In principle, I don't have a problem with creation of state police. But then it's important that we not replicate the challenges that we are having with the Nigerian police as it's constituted right now with state police. In other words, it would be good to examine the modalities for the operation of state police to be sure that we're going to have a resolution of the problems we are running away from. If we're not going to have a resolution of those problems, then there's really no point having to duplicate or indeed multiply those problems with state police. I think the problem that we have far more is actually having to organize the police force in a way that it is effective. And if we're going to do that, we would have to do that whether as a federal police force, a one-unit police force, or as a state police force. It's not in the name or the bifurcation, so to speak, of the force that the solution would be found.
Apart from issues of insecurity, this present administration has been accused of not obeying court orders. I'm talking about the government now. Nigeria has also recently been dubbed the poverty capital of the world. Would you say that past administrations of the NBA have done enough to take on government on behalf of the people?
The point is you can never do enough as long as the problems persist. So I would not be judgmental in saying, have they done enough? I would say the problems are still there. And if the problems are still there, then it means we still need to do something. And those problems are still there. The problem in regard to court judgments, the government not obeying court judgments, it's not behind us. So as long as the problems persist, then there's still work to do. And it means even the administration, the current one, the incoming one, would still have quite some bit to do as far as those problems, those challenges are concerned.
So if you come in, if you become president of the NBA, what would you do differently?
Number one, I believe that there has to be that strident demand for doing things right. And one of the ways that I intend to do that is by making sure that every month there is a press briefing. Now, what that means, for example, is if there is a problem this month, in the next month's press briefing, I should be giving an update in regard to that particular problem which we had raised attention on. And that way, if it continues to remain on the agenda, then of course the expectation is that somebody would take note and somebody would do something about it. And of course the body of lawyers itself, the Nigerian Bar Association, would not only dwell on only the one issue, they would keep talking about different issues. And the fact that this continues continuously every month would definitely bring more attention to issues of national importance. That's number one issue that number one way that we intend to tackle this. There's also something else that we intend to do, and that is also talk with the hierarchy of the agencies, the security agencies. Understand if they have problems. Know what their problems are. Are these problems resolvable by some other agencies of government? And if they are resolvable by some other agencies of government, then highlight the challenges of these agencies and call on those other agencies that need to resolve it. Draw attention to their failure to resolve those problems, which are hindering the performance of these other people's responsibilities. There's more often than not, you'll find that there are linkages in the way problems are resolved. That it might be that the failure of some other departments actually has an impact on the performance of the other agency. And those linkages have to be established, and you have to look at it from a holistic perspective and bring attention, draw attention of the government and the populace to those issues. That's what we intend to do, amongst other things, of course.
Professor Chidi Odikalu has come out to say many things about your candidacy. One of the things he said was that you have been accused of bribing judges and that you have no standing in morality and even in law to seek to lead the bar. How would you react to that?
We did come out with a publication on it, a full-scale publication on it in December 2017, which addressed all of Chidi Odikalu's issues. In fact, even before that December's publication, in November, we had come out with a publication that addressed all of it. And since that December publication, Chidi Odikalu has not raised a voice on that issue anymore. And that should inform you that we had addressed everything relating to that particular issue. Don't forget, he threatened that he was going to carry out a campaign going to all the branches of the NBA